My production staff has become ill, so nobody's here to push the buttons. So I got to go do it first. All right. 1, 2, 3. Welcome to SecurityGuardTV.com at Black Hat 2017. And what's your name, sir?
My name is Brian Vecci, and I'm with Varonis Systems.
VARONIS.com.
That's right.
And Varonis Systems. Now, what do you guys do?
We produce software. We have a data security platform that helps our customers protect their data from insider threats and cyber attacks.
Now, I like the insider threat thing. You said that first. I think insider threat is a bigger problem than outside. People tell me, oh, no, it's Russia trying to attack you. Rome fell from inside.
That's right.
We look at these giant data breaches that are hurting us are people inside the business taking data out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We did a data risk report. We do about 1,000 risk assessments a month
Wow.
with our customers and prospective customers who are looking and trying to figure out who's got access to their data. And we found 62% of employees that we surveyed have access to data that they know they probably shouldn't have access to.
Well, that's high.
It is. So
Yeah.
once somebody's inside the network, if they can get a hold of credentials and an administrative credentials or a service account or even a regular user, once they're inside, nobody's actually looking at what they're doing, what they have access to, or where sensitive data might be exposed.
Because they have permission.
Exactly.
It's the wrong permission, but it's permission.
Yeah.
And that could be even at the file level. So for example, a box or Dropbox, for example, there's a confidential M&A document and somebody forgot to add a password or encrypt it. So
Absolutely. And their role may have changed, so they created the document, they never secured it properly. And you talk about Dropbox, and especially with Office 365, once data is out of the data center, there's no more perimeter. You have even less control over who's got access to it. So it's even more critical to understand exactly who has access to the data, where really sensitive stuff like M&A docs or PII, PCI, or HIPAA-related data, patient records, where that data is exposed to more people than you realize, and then it's really critical to monitor how it's being used. You can't catch what you can't see, and for so many companies out there, only 20-some-odd% of companies that we talk to actually record who is touching these kinds of files.
We just talked about that with 2 other clients today.
did.
One guy had a solution. He monitors all the logs and compiles the logs for the companies and then analyzes it because the companies aren't doing it.
Yeah.
Really, you can't click the Windows XP log file and turn it on. Oh, it's too many logs, too much data, too much stuff to see.
Too many logs and too much of a resource hit. Even Microsoft will say generally don't turn on file level auditing on servers because it's such a resource hit.
All right.
It hurts the file servers, it impairs their ability to serve files, right? And those logs are often useless because there's no way to search them, there's no way to sort them, there's no way to correlate with these logs, how they relate to how sensitive the data is and who's got access to it.
It's just a text file in essence, right?
Exactly.
Bunch of raw data.
Yeah, it's a bunch of raw data, very difficult to use.
Now, how does Varonis help analyze that?
Well, we don't rely on the native log file, so we actually create logs where they don't exist.
Oh.
So we monitor every single event. Every time somebody accesses a file on a platform that we monitor, we record it in our own log. Take it a step further. We will also scan for sensitive data, so I know where you are accessing files that contain sensitive information. I also know who you are, and I know a little bit about you. I know what you have access to, and I know what you normally access. So if you start accessing sensitive information or information that you've never looked at before, that's going to look strange. So what Varonis does is we monitor everything, we enrich it with other metadata, who you are, what other kinds of things you access, what you have access to, and how sensitive that data is, and then we can tell you when something goes wrong. We know what's normal for every user, we know what's abnormal. So when your administrator, who knows where all the bodies are buried, starts poking around departmental data or sales information, or when a service account that usually does some sort of regular process, maybe once a week, and that service account that's run by a machine stops behaving like a machine, and it starts poking around sales data or other customer information, we let you know when something happens.
Now, where do those logs reside that you create? On your side?
I'm sorry?
Where do the logs reside that you create?
What other logs? So we're looking at...
Where do they live? Where do you keep those logs?
That's great. That's inside of our platform. So our platform's on premises, and we gather that information. We've got a distributed collection ring. I can get into the tech, but really, we are non-intrusively gathering information about how that data is being accessed, and then we scan it on our platform, and then we analyze it, and we present it back. So we help our customers not only figure out where they've got data that's exposed, how it's being used and by who, but then we help them fix those problems. Files and emails are the gateway to an organization, right? And that's the data that has the most gaps in security. That's the data that gets locked down in ransomware Because it's open to everybody.
Yeah.
Right? Of those 1,000 risk assessments we did, by the way, 20% of all data was open to everybody in the world. So once you're inside the network, once you get past that perimeter, once you send that phishing email that somebody clicks on, you generally have the keys to the kingdom. You can wander around the network completely undetected and find sensitive information, find critical information, and exfiltrate it because nobody knows what's going on.
Now, do you set up a Varonis server at the client location, or is
We
this
do.
cloud-based? Okay.
Yeah.
Not-
It's
not cloud.
it's 100% on-prem right
So
now.
that makes them feel better, I think.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
right? They can
Interesting.
put basic defenses in place
Sure.
for data that's never had it.
Yeah.
What about real-time reporting?
Mike,
Are
you
able-
gotta talk in the mic.
Real-time reporting. Are you able to inform them? So, for example, Joe in operations all of a sudden has been accessing client, KYC, know your client data. Would you immediately notify the supervisor? Because I would think that the longer this persists within an organization, the higher the risk and the higher the litigation risk as well.
You couldn't be more right. Verizon said this year, and they've said it every year, 70% of all breaches take months or years to discover, and we absolutely do that. So as we see the stream of data coming in, we analyze it compared to past activity. So if Joe starts accessing data that he's never accessed before that looks strange to him, we'll notify you immediately, and not just the supervisor. These alerts can be sent to the SIM for further action, or they can automatically take action. So, for instance, if Joe clicks on an email and suddenly his account is encrypting files in a way that looks like it might be hit by ransomware, or he's behaving strangely and he's accessing customer data, or he's an administrator that's behaving strangely, those alerts will not only go to the SOC so that your security teams know it, they can go to data owners so that the supervisor knows it, but they can also trigger actions. So for instance, you can disable Joe's account, kill that file sharing session, and stop that attack in its tracks. So as soon as we see behavior that looks like there might be an indication of compromise, you can stop it. So it's automation and intelligence.
I often wonder about the Wells Fargo case where branch staff opened bank accounts to meet their sales targets. Correct? And
Varonis would have caught that.
Right. So
I want to be careful about saying
Okay.
what we would and wouldn't
Right.
have caught
All right,
because we didn't work directly with Wells Fargo. But
rephrase
you're
that.
right. Those
In
if that's
theory,
strange activity, in theory,
allegedly,
allegedly,
opening an accounts where
Yeah.
you don't have an actual sign, a validated signature on an account form, or a different person is opening an account that's not his or her client responsibility. Those anomalies or those patterns, are you able to code them and then run it as basically machine learning? How does that work?
What's interesting, so we do use machine learning, but the machine learning really happens on the back end. What we do is we look at the millions and millions and millions and millions of events of thousands of customers all over the world, and we figured out that there are patterns within these events that indicate compromise. We package those up and we put all those analytics into what we call threat models. So then those threat models are delivered to each customer, and what that means is as a customer running our software, you don't need to spend a lot of time tuning and figuring out what the threat would be in your environment. It just works right out of the box. So you can turn it on and you can say, I want to look for people accessing the CEOs or other executive inboxes in strange ways, and I want to know about it as soon as it happens.
It's almost real time, kind of.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, what keeps Brian Vecci awake at night? What worries
Keeps
you?
me awake at night is that there's more data this year than there is last year, and there's going to be more data next year than there is this year. So much of the data that we're creating and connecting in the world, all over the world, doesn't have the basic controls in place, doesn't have a record of how it was used, and we don't know exactly who does and shouldn't have access to it, right? We're talking about this, we're at Black Hat. Basic detective and preventive controls. So what keeps me up at night is when I give my information to any organization, whether I'm doing it on purpose or whether I'm dealing with them from a commercial perspective, do they have the basic controls in place for my data? Right? We see with GDPR now, the EU is forcing companies to put basic common sense controls in place. And what keeps me up at night is that it's taken this long to get those basic kind of common sense defenses on so much of our information.
I feel a little better, but not completely better.
We'll get there.
All right. Brian Vecci,
hope so.
Varonis.com. Thanks for coming on SecurityGuideTV.com at Black Hat.
Thank you very much.
2017.
Pleasure's
Great
mine.
interview. Thanks, my friend.